Okay, we are live. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next episode of Security, not the other show, but Security on the In30 network. I've lost count at this point of all the numbers, but we're somewhere, I don't know, in the mid-30s, but it doesn't matter because we're just going to show you some news. We have some comments, we have some news, and we're going to see how it goes tonight. So let's introduce Tom, who has our first comment, I think.
Howdy, everyone. And yes, there is a question here. So we got a comment asking about, and I think this is for a truecrypt volume. How can I recreate my key file / container file for a volume which I already know the password of if I accidentally deleted it with a file shredding application? And this, depending on what I'm trying to interpret this correctly, but truecrypt gives you the ability to use, a password in addition to a file. So you can actually have two different things that you need to unlock a truecrypt volume. And that password mixed with the file becomes part of your key, and it's really, really secure. The bad thing is if you get rid of the file, if you get rid of a key file, and you can have lots of key files, but even if you get rid of one, if you can't recreate that file, it's gone. You can try to recreate it if you know the data that was in it, but chances are you don't. I know some people who have used certain MP3s or certain common pictures on the internet as their key file, and it works decently well if you keep it secret, if people don't know it's part of a key file, if it blends into the other files you have. Not a bad thing to do, but if hopefully this shredder application did a terrible job. I would suggest going in using two programs, PhotoRec and TestDisk, and you can get those for free. They're online, they're open source. Don't pay for it, and there's no such thing as a trial version of those. Make sure to look for the open source ones, and try to undelete it. But if TuneUp Shredder has actually done a good job at shredding this file, I don't think you're going to get it back. Hopefully you were doing backups. Maybe you stored it on a cloud service somewhere. Maybe you've got a backup even written to a CD at one point. I would really look for it, because without that file, without the key file, combined with your password, it's going to be very, very, very almost impossible to get back into that volume without the key file. It's like losing part of your password. And with truecrypt, it's really good security. You can't just brute force that.
Well, let me ask this. Is this like a second factor? Because I understand you got to put your master password in, and then it's looking for another file in the same root directory?
Not necessarily. The file could be located anywhere on your system. So you can have, a password and a key to get in. And without the key, your password doesn't do too much. It actually, it gets blended together, and it's used in creating the master key to unlock your truecrypt volume. So you do need both pieces. And you can choose any file. I know people who have used Britney Spears songs, like really common MP3s floating around the internet, and save them in Dropbox or something, because it looks like it's just a normal file. But they use it as a key file in addition to a password for their truecrypt volume. It's kind of sneaky, kind of cool.
So, I mean, I guess going forward, unfortunately, I don't think our commenter in this case is going to be successful. But moving forward, assuming he has other data that he can sort of rebuild, should he use a common file, like you said, like the original lolcat or something that's easily found, or should it be something difficult?
Well, there's two different schools of thought, and it really depends on the level of security you need. If you need something, kind of obscure, combined with a really good password that you're going to remember, again, don't just use a key file, especially a common key file. It's going to be It'll be less bad than using a common password, but not by much. Um, choose a really good password and use Google's logo, or use one of the doodles that you really liked, or the original lolcat, or an MP3 you found, or something. Make it a family picture that you've saved to Dropbox and Google Drive, and you post it online on Facebook somewhere. Just make sure that, the file is going to be exactly the same, because if you upload the original to Dropbox and that's your key file, downloading it from Facebook may not give you the same file. It might be compressed and shrunk and all this other stuff that is totally different on an encryption level. It's a totally different file. So no, I wouldn't think there's anything you can do. Again, photo rec, test disk, try to look through your undeleted files, use Recover. I know they've got a good portable app out. And, backups. Backups are always important, because I've done this to myself. You are not alone. I have deleted key files, and I have lost passwords and lost some important data because I encrypted it and then threw away the keys. And it happens. It's okay, but it really hammers in the fact that good backups are really your last line of defense.
Okay, I mean, I don't see necessarily a difference between some random noise file, like something you create and you keep there, or something that's so common, like you said, like the Google logo or a doodle that you can find somewhere, because the person has to know that, right? They can't just.
Right.
I mean, I guess they hold a gun to your head and say, "What is it?" It'll be hard pressed for you to lie and say it's not the Google logo. Whereas some random thing say, hey, look, it's this random file. I have no idea, but I know it's there.
And, a randomly generated text file full of garbage that's, a megabyte in size is actually technically going to be, it's more obscure, but there's less randomized data in that than a bigger file that may be more common. So if you replace it with a 3 megabyte MP3, you're getting 3 times the entropy out of it. You're getting 2 more megabytes of entropy at the trade-off that it's actually a common file and someone might be able to reproduce it. If it's totally random and you're generating it yourself and you lose it, there's little to no hope of recovery, unless you have a supercomputer from Mars from the future.
Yeah, well, and again, if you're at that level, you don't listen to us. Go and really read up on what exactly you need to do and how to keep it very secure. Because if you're trying to hide that much information and everything else, I mean, us talking for 30 minutes it shouldn't be your only research that you do.
Right. And I know a lot of people keep KeyPass vaults, password manager vaults inside of TrueCrypt volumes, and that's great. That's an awesome practice. I do the same thing with my LastPass backups. It's a fantastic idea, but remember, losing the password to those, especially if they're the only copy you have ever had access to, it's dangerous. It's really dangerous.
So, okay, that was our first comment. Do you have our next one?
I do.
This is from Gunnar?
Yes, this is from Gunnar. He asked, and he had a really, really good question. So he's got a mobile device, and he wants to connect to an open Wi-Fi network, but use a VPN because he's got a VPN. But the Wi-Fi network requires you to sign in before it allows you to have any internet access. So he's trying to figure out a way, and he was looking for some comments on how he was able to start up the VPN and then connect to the Wi-Fi network, basically shorten down the time that his traffic would be flying across this open Wi-Fi network. Because as we know, when you connect to open Wi-Fi on a smartphone, the first thing it does when it senses an internet connection is it tries to go out and update things and fetch mail and grab your tweets and Facebook messages and your snaps, and it does all this stuff automatically. Only if there was a way to just shut down all the internet until the VPN's established and then let all the apps through. And there is, but it doesn't really work entirely well on networks that want you to sign into them, on networks that require check the agree button and hit sign in on your Bob Evans public Wi-Fi. If it's just an open network, if it's a totally open and free network without any of this sign-in stuff, a lot of the VPN applications have what's called a kill switch option, where you can log in, or you can open up the VPN application, turn on the kill switch, and that will stop any unencrypted traffic. What that does is it prevents any application from reaching the internet if it's not through the VPN tunnel. Just totally shuts it down, stops everything. The bad thing is if your VPN goes down and it can't reconnect successfully for whatever reason, you have lost internet access. Now, that's a good thing if you want to maintain your security on open Wi-Fi. But when the network needs you to sign in, you quickly have to exit, the Wi-Fi screen or exit your browser after you signed in, and then go to VPN, hit go, and get everything connected. But at that point, you've got, in the best cases, 10 seconds, 5 seconds of pure data floating out on this open Wi-Fi where people can sniff it and grab it from the air. And if people have built their apps correctly using HTTPS, it wouldn't be such a big deal, but you really don't have any guarantee of that. We don't know. There's no easy way to see if Gmail is using HTTP or HTTPS. We know it is because we've done the traffic analysis, because Google has, done the right thing in their app. But what about Snapchat? What about Facebook? What about Twitter? We don't know. What about the other random apps? We've got no idea.
It's a good question because
yeah.
Who would have thought in that 1 second? And we've all had that. You come back, you're in a place that has no internet. You come back, and all of a sudden your phone just explodes with notifications.
Mm-hmm.
And not that they're somewhat they're tangentially related only because you're trying to connect to a VPN. Just think that whole load of information is trying to be sent out. And all of it's going out, and you don't know which is going to connect first, your VPN or all this other data, and you don't want that data going out, especially if it's sensitive information.
Yeah, and it all has to do with this captive portal, and it's not. I can't really blame the makers of the VPN application. I can't blame the makers of Android. They're coming at this problem from completely opposite ends, right? We don't want to make a connection to anything unless the traffic's going through a VPN tunnel. But we can't start the VPN tunnel until we sign into this access point or until we sign into this captive portal. It's a huge chicken or an egg problem, and it's the Linux distro Tails, in particular, has figured this out. But it wasn't easy. It took them actually a couple revisions to get this built in, and I really hope to see the same thing in Android. And really built into many of our VPN applications. This would be a great feature. In Tails, what happens is you connect to Open Wi-Fi, and Tails is a Linux distribution that forces everything to route through Tor. Literally all traffic except for one application is forced through Tor. That application is deemed the unsafe browser. And what it does, it's a browser that connects and uses the local Wi-Fi instead of routing through Tor. It uses your local connection. That way, if you're in a hotel, if you're in an airport, you open up the unsafe browser, click agree or sign in or whatever it says, and then Tor establishes and you're online without really exposing yourself to anything. That's really the best way to solve this problem. Unfortunately, none of the VPN app creators, at least none of them that I know about, have implemented functionality similar to that. And by all means, if you know of one that offers, the unsafe browser option while limiting all other traffic, let me know. We're looking for a solution.
Oh, look, I didn't think of it, so I'm actually really happy. I'm really happy that our listeners are actually coming up with really good questions for us. I'm shocked. I didn't think that we would get we would get all these phenomenal questions, and just today last week we got two. We got the one with truecrypt, which is really important, and how do you protect your VPN traffic as you connect to the VPN?
Yeah, and Gunnar, I'm still looking around for solutions because I know I suggested the kill switch, but you're right, on a captive portal, it doesn't really work that way. It doesn't work out at all. So the thing, and you've already been doing this, is as soon as you connect, flip over to the VPN application, hit connect as fast as you can, and then pray to your deity of choice that none of your data lands in the wrong hands. It is not a great solution. It's not even a good solution, but it is the best one we have right now. And I'm going to keep a lookout for anything that will help this particular issue because I've got it too.
I mean, did we say we're talking about the PC, or we're talking about a computer, correct? Because I do know on Android that you have the data syncing option that you can say don't sync anything, and again, you're praying and hoping, but...
Right. We're mostly talking about smartphones. On a PC, you have a little bit more control. You don't have total control, but you've definitely got more control over what gets internet access on your PC versus what gets internet access on your smartphone. Right? You can open and close browsers. You can close your mail application. But on Android, that doesn't really happen. And yeah, you can turn off data syncing, but not every application listens to that. Not every application is going to obey those flags.
Yeah, that's the big issue. So again, so we'll leave everyone. If you have questions, I mean, try and find. I don't know where the best spot to catch us, but we try to read everything, and we try to share it. So if we don't answer your question, it's because you commented on the truecrypt episode, which was months ago, or you commented on the other YouTube or on the website. But we do read them, and we do try to get back. If we can, we get back to you.
Yeah, hit up the website, hit up YouTube, grab us on Twitter. Google Plus is kind of our home base of where we're at. You can hit us up on our respective websites. We're always watching our email. So yeah, ask us questions. We're happy to answer.
And it's great. It's great to see that people do care because I do see the sea of humanity that I got one yesterday. I've never backed up my iPhone. What should I do? Mm-hmm. And you do one of those facepalm things, and you say, I really can't help you right now. This is gonna take a good hour of discussion, and we have 10 minutes to do something else. So people like the show, and so we continue doing it. So that's half the show. The other half was just random news that came out in the last week, and there was a lot of these little stories that were not enough for one show, but enough to talk about. So I guess the biggest one that I guess you and I, Tom, just rolled our eyes at was that some Russian security firm claims that they have 1.2 billion user credentials.
Right. I wish I had 1.2 billion user credentials, and that number has fluctuated more than voting poll numbers. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I saw 900 million, I saw a billion, I saw 1.6, I saw 1.4 billion, and then they settled somewhere in this 1.2 billion nexus before everyone just called them out.
The problem is that we are not. At this point, we have many different sources saying we should be worried, and many different sources saying we shouldn't. Look, it was reported on CNN. I've been watching CNN for other reasons other than with the security news and they're saying, oh, you should do this and you should do that. But one of the commentators that they brought on said, oh, if you go to the website and you pay them money, they will do credential monitoring. So they have a credential monitoring solution. When you hear that, that's your red flag that something's up.
Yeah, this has got all the earmarks of a typical, fear, uncertainty, and doubt scam. These guys come out with a big story, scare the pants off of people, and then your grandmother says, well, I don't want my U.S. bank password getting hacked. She holds up her reading glasses and looks at her credit card and starts typing in stuff. And all of a sudden she's out. What was it? $100 to check your name on the list.
It was a lot. I don't know if it was 100, but they offer they offer monthly, they offer weekly, they offer everything. So it just seems more money than actual information.
I mean, I've seen mob protection rackets run better than this, or with less red flags, right? Um, so the thing that really convinces me that there is nothing at all to worry about ever is that security god Bruce Schnier came out and said, "Yeah, guys, this smells fishy. This smells really fake." And when Bruce Schnier talks, we listen, especially us in the security field. He's a really great guy. He's really smart and knows what he's talking about. But every time a leak has happened, every other time a leak has happened, a company comes out and they say, "Hey, look, I'm not going to just publish this list online somewhere, but I'm going to give it to a couple media organizations and people we can trust, and then you can type in your own email address into this form, and we'll just say, yeah, you're good, or no, you're not good, change your stuff now." You see this stuff all the time on Gizmodo, on LastPass's website, on, I think, 1Password has also got a checker. I mean, whenever a breach happens, you always see great free utilities, just a free web form that you type in your email address or a username, and it says, please change your password or no, you're safe. These guys asking for money is, A, in bad faith, and B, really shady. I don't think they have anything. If they do have something, I think they bought some of the previously leaked lists that we've already, that's already come and gone. I
mean,
think they've got old news.
LastPass reported on this right away, and they said that we would make a tool, but we can't because we have to pay money for it.
Right.
And it's not that they can pay once. I bet you if it was a one-time fee for, I don't know how many people would be checking on LastPass, 30,000, 40,000, a million requests, then I'm sure absolutely they would buy it. But I feel like it's a per name request, which again sounds awfully fishy. And it was good. I was very proud of CNN for saying exactly that. They're saying, look, it's probably they bought 1.2 billion passwords. You had the Target breach, you had the Adobe breach, they had all these breaches. All that adds up to 1.2 billion.
Right. It looks like this company is just trying to make a buck or trying to make a splash or trying to get people to pay attention to them. We see this a lot, not a lot, but we see this sometimes from less reputable security firms. They'll come out with this big, hard-hitting story that actually doesn't mean anything or is based on completely the wrong facts or wrong information or sometimes no information at all. I'm willing to bet that this giant leak amounts to nothing over the long term, and we forget about these guys and move on.
I mean, to be honest, I already forgot about it, and while picking a topic for tonight, it just popped into my head saying, "Oh, we should talk about it."
Those guys that were trying to get money from all the people scared. Yeah, okay, we can talk about that.
So I'll link Bruce Schnier's article, and he links to Brian Krebs, who's another very famous security person.
Oh yes.
Who says the opposite. He says that you should be slightly worried, but he didn't come out and be like, this is the worst thing ever, we're all going to die, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. He went through his reasons, and it's a good read, even though everyone is still skeptical.
Yeah, I definitely say we're going to link you both the articles in the show notes. Take a look at both of them. Krebs is a great guy, he's a great writer, he's a great security researcher, and I really respect his opinion. And the same with Schnier. On this one, I'm going to side with Schnier. But both of their stuff, well written, worth reading, and they've got good points. So decide for yourself.
Okay. We have about 7 minutes left. The next story we found out last week was, I guess, PayPal.
Yes, there was a decent breach. So two-factor security. You're trying to log onto a website, and hopefully we've beaten this into enough people's heads that they've gone and turned this on wherever they can. But you log into a website and it says, "Hey, I need that six-digit code thing." You're like, okay. So you dig out your phone and you're all like, okay, I'm logged in. Well, PayPal's got something like that. I believe theirs is a physical product. I believe they have a little credit card that you push a button and get a code. Kind of cool. Definitely an older way of doing it. But they had a breach. Well, not necessarily a breach. They had
And I'm
a
holding it up, by the way. If you don't know what we're talking about, I have my
football.
little my football.
Um, so you push a button, you get a code. They had and I don't want to call it a breach. They had a security hole found by a researcher, by a white hat hacker. This guy, instead of going and selling these horrible exploits to all the baddies on the internet, or just giving them out to anyone who would listen, contacted PayPal very responsibly. Emailed them, got in touch with the security team, said, "Hey, there's a breach here. You guys should probably fix this." Was talking to them back and forth. PayPal's seemingly responding, but a couple months after the fact, nothing happened. It just fell off the radar and they stopped listening. So he responsibly disclosed the issue. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end if we have time. But the issue is I think it's when you're logged into eBay, you can link a PayPal account, but it doesn't require two-factor authentication to log into that account.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
We're gonna link we're gonna link the story in the show notes, but from the person who did this, and there's a tester for it. But basically, yes, you're in eBay. You do link an account, which is exactly what eBay wants you to do. They want you to work with PayPal, and if you do it in the right way, you can log into somebody else's PayPal without them knowing.
Right. What it does is it gives you a PayPal login cookie and says, "Oh, your accounts are linked." But you can use that URL string, I'm linking my account URL string for PayPal, and instead of giving you the two-factor authentication screen, which it should, it just totally bypasses it. It gets rid of two-factor authentication entirely. It sidesteps around your two-factor authentication and gets you right into PayPal. And this is disclosed, and PayPal, if they haven't fixed it already, they should be fixing it soon because it is very, very public. It's one of the big dangers in linking web applications is you have to make sure when you build two-factor authentication or when you're using two-factor authentication, if you think it's supposed to be there, it should be there. If you're trying to log in from another site and it's not asking you for two-factor authentication and you haven't remembered it for 30 days or a couple hours or whatever, it really should be asking. Two-factor authentication is there, and it needs to always be enabled when you're logging in. And you don't have a cookie saved.
And you have to remember, PayPal. Look, I don't have high regard for PayPal, but I mean I remember they give you two ways to log in if you have your token, your football. You put your username and password, but on your password you append the 6 digits code. If you do that, it's good. Or if you don't do that, you put your password in, it then asks for the 6-digit code, which to me always screams something. It didn't sound right. And then we found out PayPal later, if you forgot it, they defaulted back to the security questions, and we always talked about how those are completely useless. So it was a cool idea, PayPal, for having two-factor, but I think it's time to either implement it or don't implement it, but not do it half-assed.
Yeah, there's a real huge danger as a company in trying to say something secure and selling a security product to people and then having it not work, right? If a company came out and they sold really terrible encryption, right, anyone could break this. It's like 3-bit encryption. It's something ridiculous, right? If people were selling that, people would use the product and say, "Oh, look, this is crazy. I'm totally secure." And they lose a flash drive with their tax return on it, and they say, "Oh, it was encrypted with truecrypt or whatever this bad program's name was. I don't have to worry about it." And then some guy gets on, and it's just like, "Oh yeah, truecrypt. Yeah, no, your stuff's mine, dude. I've got all of your information now." So there's a real danger in convincing people that they're secure and then not having it at all. It's like if you crashed your car in a head-on collision and you realize after you woke up that, oh yeah, my car just didn't have airbags. That just wasn't part of the package. Like, that would make you feel really angry. And tech companies really have to own up to it. They either have to do security all the way in the right way, or stop making your users feel secure. If they feel insecure, that's better. That it makes them treat the service with a little more caution. It makes them approach it a little less gung-ho than they would on something they assume is 100% foolproof.
Look, you're right, and you're right. So let's end on that note because our time's up. But I'm proud of the emails. I'm proud of the comments, and we got 2 quick stories in, and just to keep on your radar, because you have to remember, security always happens. That's the beauty of the show. There's always something.
And next time, I'll tell you about responsible disclosure for a little bit and how that works. How can you spread a security vulnerability to the world without being seen as the bad guy?
Well, that's always good, because I always hear people asking me that, and you're right. It's hard to tell people, what do? If you go out and contact somebody and nobody knows who you are, you're going to get the police at your door. So you have to do it the right way. Okay, let's end, and we will see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.